lot of people are building in public. In this video, I'm going to give you 8 reasons why this is a bad idea. Who am I to tell you this? My name is Michael Bohanes. I'm the founder and CEO of the Alpha Lead Academy, and we've worked with over 200 consultants and agency owners, helping them stop depending on referrals and book sales calls with complete strangers. We're booking 200 to 300 sales calls a month with strangers just for our own business, and we're making 7 figures a year. Sometimes I see new clients of ours who come in and part of their content game is to be building in public. And in case you're not familiar with this term, building in public means in most cases that you're very early stage and you're documenting the growth journey of your business. You're celebrating client wins, you're sharing your strategy, you're openly discussing your challenges and growth pains. You're being very open, very vulnerable. It's quite a popular thing to do, and many people do it, not least because they genuinely want to help others, pay it forward, and one day be able to look back fondly at themselves and nostalgically retrace their early steps. There was a big viral moment on X a few months ago where this guy, Santiago Ortiz, publicly celebrated that he booked his first discovery call. A lot of people started piling on him, saying effectively, hey, if I were the prospect, this wouldn't fill me with a lot of confidence. And his response was, sure, but hey, at least I'm honest, and transparency generates trust. Well, let's talk about it. Who is right and who is wrong? And since you probably guessed from the title where I stand on this topic, let's go through the top 8 reasons why, as a consultant or agency owners, this is about one of the worst things you can do. Reason 8 is the biggest of them all. So you can either scroll forward or enjoy the build-up and anticipation and give me some good YouTube viewing stats. So let's go. Reason number 1, honesty is not an unambiguous virtue. There's this weird thinking in our culture that is as pervasive as it is wrong, namely that honesty is like this absolute moral good. It's part of this, oh, you are you, you're awesome the way you are, that kind of type of narrative that's very narcissistic at its core. Honesty is not an absolute moral good. If you meet somebody new and you cheerfully disclose to them your weird sexual fetish, you're being honest. Also, you're being a complete idiot, and you can come up with a billion scenarios where honesty is generally not such a good idea, whether that's saying something inappropriate at the dinner table, Larry David style, or living your life like an open wound on social media. Now, here's an important nuance, and this one is tough, so stick with me. I'm absolutely in favor of being honest with prospects on a one-to-one sales call in that kind of scenario, if they ask. Never lie. If they ask you about your success stories so far and you don't have any, of course, don't BS around it and offer something in return. For example, you can offer to work on a success fee basis, offer to work for free in exchange for a testimonial. But there's no need to volunteer this information if the prospect hasn't asked you for it. If you offer to do work for them, you charge them a price that they agree to, and you have the right ethics, meaning you will do your utmost to get them good results. In that case, there's absolutely no need for you to disclose that you're green and have no experience. That kind of honesty would be self-defeating. You'd be hobbling your business effectively. And you know exactly where that line is. You know exactly what would be crossing into the territory of lying. And you, of course, never want to go there. So if we acknowledge that honesty and transparency are not these absolute virtues, we have to wonder, what does honesty and transparency communicate when we build in public? It communicates that you're inexperienced and therefore probably not very good at what you're doing. That's it. That is the upshot. Do you really want to be communicating this? If yes, do you also, when you go on a first date with an attractive partner, disclose all of your insecurities, fears, traumas, and phobias? Do you also think that's good because it's honest? Or do you believe in a stiff upper lip type attitude of putting your best foot forward, of being the best, most courageous, strong, and confident version of yourself? Reason number 2, it only builds trust with a particular type of client. And that's usually not the kind of client that you want, because think about it. Who finds it compelling when their service provider publicly talks about their small business and, hey, I'm so excited, I booked my first sales call? Think in extremes. Imagine, let's say you're a personal branding consultant and you make between 5 and 10K a month and you're building in public. Would Jeff Bezos hire you if he saw a video of yours where you celebrate recent client wins and talk about how you plan to hire your first employee? He wouldn't. Let's go down a notch. Would Hormozy hire you for personal branding? Nope. And so on. You can keep going down the business hierarchy, and it's clear that the more successful somebody is, the less patience they will have with someone building in public. The only person you'll get is somebody who's as broke as you are. Birds of a feather. If, however, you are obsessed with your subject matter, let's say you're still a personal branding consultant making 5 to 10K a month, but you're hyper niched and your only focus is on Pinterest and the audience is on Pinterest. That's your thing. Every content item you publish is about that. You just obsess about it. Now, let's do that game again. Would Jeff Bezos hire you? Probably not. Hormozi? Probably not. You haven't worked with people at his level yet. But somebody who's making 10 million a year, who already has a good personal brand on YouTube, but feels that Pinterest is a good audience for them, hell yeah. Of course they would hire you. You're a total Pinterest freak and high quality people love obsession. Why? Because it signals expertise. That's why. Better clients, richer people will always value expertise over personal feelings like fondness for you and your plucky startup. The more successful somebody is, the less they are guided by their feelings and the more by strategic analysis and hard-nosed business interests. So maybe you might win an occasional client or two with your building in public vulnerability, but they won't be the type of clients who makes for impressive success stories. They'll be relatively unsuccessful people who find your content endearing. Oh, look at him, he's building in public. And they'll find your prices affordable. Reason number 3, when you build in public, you talk about yourself rather than about your client and the problems they are facing. Especially in the early years of your business, you need to be maniacally obsessed with client success. You're unproven. And the very best thing you can do is to make clients successful. Every minute you spend on building in public is a minute that you're not spending on helping your clients solve their problems. So the only things you should spend your time is getting clients and serving clients, and that's it. And as we'll hear in the next few reasons, building in public is a very suboptimal way of actually getting new clients. Hey, quick interruption here. If you're a consultant or agency owner and you want to stop depending on referrals and start booking sales calls with complete strangers, build trust with them before the sales call, and then close them, we might have something for you. Click the link in the description, book a call, and let's see if we can help you set up your first outbound funnel using cold email, cold DMs, and strategic content. All right, back to the video. Reason number 4, it distracts you. It's not your business. Again, I know I'm a broken record on this. You should be maniacal about solving your clients' problems. Building in public is just another flight of fancy. If you must document your journey, document privately and only start sharing your journey when you've achieved something that's, let's say, objectively impressive. Let's say reaching 7 figures at the very minimum. Back to the example of Santiago Ortiz, who I mentioned earlier. His semi-viral post got almost 1 million views and over 200 comments. How much time do you think he spent reading and engaging on those comments from people who support him or criticized him? And you know what he didn't spend time doing during this time? Actually working on solving his clients' problems or getting new clients. Is building in public really the best use of your content production time? Wouldn't it be better to spend that time creating content that will actually help you build trust around your expertise? You know, the kind of stuff that you plan to charge money for? If you're selling AI consulting, what will build more trust with the prospects who needs AI consulting? You discussing the pros and cons of Clay versus Zapier versus Make.com, or you celebrating your 3rd client win and outlining how you plan to go from 8K a month to 20K a month. What builds more trust with a business owner who is drowning in admin work and doesn't understand any of this AI stuff? Reason number 5, not all marketing is good marketing. I think the biggest reason people like building in public is because, number 1, they see that this kind of content gets more views than their more boring, expertise-heavy content. And number 2, they think that all marketing is good marketing. Just becoming known is good in and of itself. And some marketers actually made this philosophy work. Shay Rowbottom was a big deal on LinkedIn 5 years ago as a LinkedIn content guru, and the way she got a lot of views was by talking about her personal insecurities and traumas and how she was abused as a teenager. And sure enough, not least because she's also pretty, she got a lot of attention and got a bunch of clients from that. I remember her even saying that on a podcast interview. Just get a lot of attention on practically any topic. There will always be a few relevant people in any audience who will end up buying from you. I'm of course paraphrasing, but that was the gist of what she said. And it's a perfect example of what a big part of the online marketing world believes in. All attention is good attention. Even bad publicity is good publicity. Well, I disagree. And if that's not enough, Alex Hormozi also disagrees. He says bad publicity is publicity, but that's about it. Extreme example, if you created social media content where you walk up to people and you slap them in the face and you run away, you'll get a lot of attention. Should you do that in order to get clients for your B2B business? You'll probably say no way. So how about publicly discussing your traumas? Well, some of you will say maybe. How about building in public? Where should we draw the line? It's very simple. I actually have a suggestion. Draw the line at the question, does this content build trust with my ideal demographic about my relevant skills and quality of service? If yes, produce it. If not, don't produce it. Simple. Now, you might ask, well, Michael, how does this video fit into your own content strategy? Well, first of all, I see that a few of my clients who come into our program, they are building in public, and I advise them against it. So it's a thing that people in my target demographic do. I think it's a false belief that they're trapped in. And I also know that changing somebody's mind builds a lot of trust. I'm sure that you know the person who changed your mind about a fundamental life question and you trust them. So how this video fits into my strategy of building trust, I try to change your mind about building in public. And if you do, you'll trust me about the topic of building trust with strangers. And then you'll be more likely to sign up for our service. Simple. And I would say this is good marketing. This builds trust in exactly the area that I want to build trust in. You will conclude that I've thought about this topic. Thus, you will conclude that I'm something of an expert, and you will then probably be more willing to work with us than if you hadn't had this little building block of trust with me. Reason number 6, you're publicly disclosing your low status. A lot of trust in business is about signaling. Jeremy Haynes talked about it recently in a video on YouTube, and I'll link to it below. If you want to attract rich people as clients, you can't be sitting in some dinky office with $20 fake brick wallpaper from Amazon. You want to show your richly decorated, cool office environment, for example. Status signaling matters as much as we don't like it. And there is some nuance in signaling you're rich. Some people respond badly to the Rolex and Lambo style flexing. For example, I really dislike it because, in my opinion, it reveals values that I don't really resonate with. But of course, even a Rolex flexer is, all things being equal, is more credible to me than a non-flexer. I'll be honest here. And of course, a non-flexer like Alex Hormozi, who just bowls me over with the quality of his content and just the fact he talks about how much money he's making, that creates a ton of credibility in business at least. So what status are you signaling when you're building in public? I mean, there's no better way to shout from the rooftop that you're a small fish. You're literally advertising your inexperience for the whole world to see. Why would you do that? It also doesn't matter if you have past experience. The guy I mentioned before, Santiago, also apparently has 6 years of relevant experience. To buyers, that matters very little. Sure, it's better than if you had been shoveling coal in the last 6 years, but everyone knows that having a corporate job in one domain is very different from running a business in that same domain. Like if I know that you, for example, have been a programmer, you've done, kick-ass software development at Google, and now you're selling custom software building, right? Software agency. Well, probably means you're a good developer, but I don't know anything about how good a service provider you are, how much you care about customer support, etc. And even if you have run a business in a similar field before, but now you're starting from scratch in a new field, well, first of all, why have you switched? Did you fail in that previous business? Those are all questions that go through a prospect's mind when you are building in public. When you're doing this and you're at a low level, the only messages that you're sending are, I'm inexperienced, I'm low status. Now, of course, if you're already making 10 million a year and you're selling to 6-figure entrepreneurs, that's okay. You can build in public. For example, Charlie Morgan recently published a video about his plan to go from 10 million to 30 million a year. That's fine. But if his target client were big corporate, it would be a bad idea to discuss this in public. It's all about who you're actually talking to. It just would really massively decrease his credibility among that crowd. Reason number 7, the only reason you will get clients from your content is out of pity or somebody looking to get a discount. In the first case is going to be rare. Few people actually buy because they want to support a plucky young upstart. And if they do, it's probably because they already know you or they've been following you for a while. They trust you. Strangers who have no horse in the race, they will avoid you. Not publicly. In public, they will be all, oh, you go girl, awesome man, good for you. but they won't spend money with you. The only other reason that people will support you is that they think they can get a well-priced deal, right? For example, if you work on a success fee basis only. And sure, they will always be the outlier exceptions. There will be the people who see something in you, they like your honesty. You will always find an oddball or two, but it's just not a good long-term strategy. By the way, building in public is particularly noxious if you're more of a grown-up. If you're 19 and you're documenting your growth, it's endearing. But there's a very, very soon coming up expiry date on endearingness, right? If you're 30 or even 40 plus, building in public is deadly. And it doesn't mean that it's shameful to not have a massive business when you're older. Of course not. It's perfectly fine to start a new business when you're 40, 50, 60, whatever age. I'm all in favor of, you building a business. But the older you are, the less of an endearing factor you have. For example, imagine a 13-year-old kid who shows up at your door offering to mow your lawn for $10. You love it. And now imagine a 60-year-old. By default, it's just creepy and you'll be weirded out. And sure, if he's well presented and respectable and explains, for example, that he's fallen on hard times, you might absolutely give him a shot, but you'll still be peering at him through the curtains throughout the time and you'll be glad when he's gone. It's unfortunate, it's not fair, but the world is not very friendly to new beginners at an advanced age. It doesn't mean you cannot be it, just don't advertise it. Focus on your expertise instead. Focus on showcasing that rather than the building in public part. Then if you showcase your expertise, you will automatically have a bonus. If as a 60-year-old, you start, for example, an operations consulting business and you talk about throughput and time to market and lean manufacturing, people will automatically give you an age-related bonus. Hey, that lady looks like she's 60 and talks about manufacturing. She probably has a lot of experience, even if you don't. And finally, reason 8, and this is the biggie and single reason why building in public is the worst idea ever. You aren't speaking to your target audience, to the people you actually want to sell to. And this reason has 2 prongs, if you want, the 8A and 8B. 8A is you're not talking to your audience, you're talking to somebody else. If you're an operations consultant, your audience are probably operations professionals in manufacturing companies. They don't give a monkey about your plucky little upstart consultancy and how you are building in public. So they won't even lay eyes on your content. Who will be watching? Either your friends and family or people who are one step behind you. And that's not who you will be paying your bills. So why do you want to get their attention? Reason 8B, and that one is even worse. You're not talking to your audience, you're talking about them. And necessarily you're talking about them as fish to be caught, as targets to be ensnared. Hey, I got my first client. We just closed our 10th deal. Here's what I learned from it, etc. Nobody wants to be talked about, especially not when it comes to being treated as a target. This is why it's so repulsive to women when they overhear how some men talk about them as prey to be hunted down. And because you're talking about your audience, not to them, not with them, this is why you're not building any trust with them. You're actually decreasing their trust with you because you talk about them as targets to be hunted down. And trust is, of course, the most important thing when it comes to getting clients online. Your entire online footprint needs to be pristine and all about your expertise. Now, you could come at me with counter arguments. You might say, okay, I hear you, Michael, you have a point. How about I talk to my audience on, let's say, LinkedIn and on X or YouTube? There I build in public. That's just as bad. Or it's actually even worse because you cannot really choose where your audience finds you. They might stumble over one of your YouTube videos, even if that YouTube channel is not meant for them. Then you have this horrible effect of being kind of two-faced, right? When they discover your build in public channel, it's like when you have a new girlfriend who then finds your diary where you track and document your pickup artist tactics. Probably won't make you very popular with her. It's like you present your professional face on LinkedIn and on Facebook, you're somebody completely different. Doesn't build trust at all. Counter argument 2, but building in public gets me many more views than the more expertise heavy content that I normally publish. Well, we already talked about how with this argument, you should actually be on YouTube slapping grannies in the face and running away because this gets you even more attention. But also, I think this argument comes from a fundamental misunderstanding of what content should do in the early stages of your business. Before you have proven yourself in the market, before you have a ton of success stories and credibility and case studies, and before you're making serious money. The role of content, and I invite you to see it that way, not many people will tell you this, the role of content is mostly reactive trust building for people who look you up because you reached out to them, and nurturing people who got into your orbit. Here's what I mean by that. Our biggest mantra at the Alpha Lead Academy is sales before marketing. Sales is interrupting somebody through an ad or cold outreach and making them an offer to work with you. Marketing is the process of becoming known, liked, and trusted. And the goal of your content before you're at, say, 7 figures is to support your sales, i.e. your cold outreach or your ads. It's not to get clients on its own merit. You probably won't go viral with a good piece of content that will bring you clients. Point being, your content at this early stage does not need to be popular. It just needs to be good. High quality, well thought through, no AI slop. Show that you know your stuff. Show that you're an expert. Show your competence and your likability. But that kind of content is mostly for people who you approached or who saw your ad and who may wonder, who is this person? And if you accept that, if you now also believe in sales before marketing, then the counter argument about how building in public gets you more views than your expertise heavy content just becomes irrelevant. You don't need a lot of views. You just need the views from the right person. You'll get the traffic through your outreach. Counter argument 3, also, you may bring up people like Nick Sarayev, who've been building in public for a long time, even from his early days, well before he was very successful. Now, Nick Sarayev is great. I like his content a lot, but his audience are people who want to build a business like he has built. For him, building in public makes sense. He's selling to wannabe entrepreneurs, so that's the right path to take. But even Nick aside, you will always find people who are an exception to the rule. Okay, I'm sure you will find examples of successful entrepreneurs who party hard, who drink every weekend, who have a mediocre product, who juggle 2 to 3 different businesses and mistreat their customers, right? Just like you will find public builders who succeed. It's possible, right? Because online you will find literally anything you want. So this is why it's so important to have principles based on, I would say, strong values. What philosophy makes sense to you? Like, what makes intuitive sense? If you heard all of the reasons that I gave you above, you don't agree with me that talking to your audience is better than talking about them like a piece of meat. If you don't believe that trust in your expertise is more important than trust based just mere honesty. And third, if you don't believe in the reality of status and how building in public means that you're publicly advertising your low status. So if you really think about these common sense arguments, and you carefully consider them, and then you consciously reject them, power to you. I wish you well. Everyone else, I hope that you're fully on board with not building in public anymore. It's the equivalent of rolling over, showing your soft belly to the world and hoping that it won't bite you, and that some people who see this will think, oh, look, he looks like a nice submissive beta animal. I think he will do my bidding for low pay and he will not challenge me too much. Let me talk to him. Is that the type of client that you want? That's what you have to think about. And if you're wondering what kind of offer you have to put into the market so that you can successfully build client acquisition systems and book sales calls with strangers, then watch this next video.